The movie begins by introducing our main character, Jim Dodge, reading a newspaper. Jim is an overly confident guy who acts like he has life figured out, but in reality, he has no idea what he's doing. At work, Jim rambles to a bunch of dogs, proudly making up fake stories and lies on the spot. Even the dogs seem tired of listening to him. After getting fired again, Jim tells a group of kids that he's a wealthy businessman in the animal industry with expensive cars and multiple employees. Of course, none of it is true. He only tells these stories to children because he knows adults would laugh at him. Now unemployed, Jim begs a gas station owner for work, but the man refuses since he has already fired him multiple times before. As Jim leaves, he notices a beautiful rich girl named Josie McClellan pulling up in a fancy car. Instantly, he starts acting like a gentleman, and Josie smiles and waves at him. But before Jim can enjoy the moment, his father Bud suddenly appears and confronts him about being fired again.
And you believed him?
Damn straight I do.
But Jim quickly lies and claims he resigned on his own. Bud drags him back to the truck right in front of Josie, definitely not the impression Jim was hoping to make. That night during dinner, Jim's sister casually mentions that Josie has already left town and moved to New York.
She did not.
But Jim immediately claims she is still in town and even lies about having coffee with her earlier that day. His father just stares at him before announcing to the family that Jim has lost another job and can no longer pay rent.
There's gotta be some kind of record.
The next morning, Bud wakes Jim up early and drives him to a mall called Target. On the way there, he warns Jim that if he doesn't get a job, he'll be sent to St. Louis to live with his gardener uncle.
I don't think this is such a great place for me to work, Dad.
Jim tries to make it emotional by asking if his father wants him out of his life, but Bud calmly replies that he only wants him out of the house. Inside the mall, Jim accidentally gets interviewed for the wrong position, but instead of correcting the misunderstanding, he plays along.
$42,500 a year. What do you think?
When the director mentions the salary, Jim confidently says he was expecting $45,000 instead, and surprisingly, the director agrees. But moments later, a phone call reveals that the real candidate simply missed his flight. Realizing he has just offered a management position to the completely wrong person, the director quickly changes the offer to $4 an hour as a night cleanup boy, and despite everything, Jim takes the job. In the next scene, we see Josie's wealthy father, Roger, in a meeting with two businessmen when Josie quietly walks in. He asks her to greet them, but to his surprise, she casually greets one of the men with a kiss on the lips. After the meeting ends, Roger immediately confronts Josie in her room and warns her never to do that again.
I'll beat the living daylights out of you.
That same night, two men are seen stealing a car from a couple who's having a good time. The next day, Jim once again surprises his parents by hiring a limousine to drive him to work. As he passes the kids, he usually tells his fake stories. He casually tells them he's heading to the airport for a flight to Paris to meet the vice president of Bulgaria for a business meeting. The kids stare at him in amazement as he leaves.
Jim is so cool.
Afterward, Jim steps out of the limo and walks into Target like he owns the entire building. When Jim arrives at the mall, he immediately starts acting like a boss around employees who have no idea who he even is. Meanwhile, Josie is also at the mall, this time shoplifting and testing out products she likes. Moments later, the head custodian arrives like a badass.
Are you lazy?
No, sir.
And runs through everything Jim is expected to clean before morning. From cleaning his coffee maker to waxing his desk to making sure every corner of the mall is spotless. Jim is shocked by the amount of workload. Once he finishes explaining, the custodian presses a button that shuts off most of the mall lights after 25 seconds to save electricity. Then he locks the doors from the outside. That's when Jim realizes he'll be completely alone in the mall all night. Jim shouts after him about it, but the custodian doesn't look back. Jim is frustrated at first, but eventually accepts it and starts cleaning. He struggles with some of the equipment in the beginning, but soon starts enjoying. Later, he takes a break and grabs snacks straight from the shelves. By the time he gets bored, he starts talking through the public address system and calls his parents to discuss Christmas plans, but they immediately hang up because it's too late at night and they're not in the mood to talk. With nobody around to stop him, Jim begins wandering deeper into the mall. He discovers a mini drum set and starts playing it like he's performing at a concert. Then he finds a pair of roller skates and starts having fun, gliding through the empty aisles. But as he rounds a corner, he suddenly freezes as he sees Josie standing there. The sight shocks him so badly that he immediately crashes straight into a display stand. In the meantime, Josie's father goes to the police station to report his missing daughter, and they begin searching for her. Back at the mall, Josie explains that she fell asleep in a dressing room and got locked inside. She also mentions that she had briefly considered getting herself arrested for shoplifting on purpose, but then she changed her mind. Jim looks confused and asks why anyone would actually want to get arrested. Josie reveals that she's unhappy living with her father because he's not a pleasant man to be around, and she's desperate to leave home. Later, Jim feels hungry and prepares a meal for himself and Josie using one of the store microwaves. The two of them sit to eat together, and as usual, Jim talks constantly. Josie watches him with quiet amusement before finally asking if he always talks that much.
I guess I do.
Josie tells Jim he should go into sales, saying a mouth like his could actually make money if used the right way. Jim admits he already tried it once, but it didn't go well. He then awkwardly keeps talking and reveals that he sometimes dreams about her, before quickly changing it to the entire cheerleading squad to save himself from embarrassment. After eating, Jim lights an expensive cigar and brags about it, saying he enjoys one after meals. Josie reminds him that he still has an entire mall to clean before morning, but Jim brushes it off, saying there's still plenty of time. Josie then tells him something he clearly wasn't prepared to hear, that around town everyone knows him as the town liar. Jim gets upset for a moment after hearing it, and Josie apologizes, saying she didn't mean to offend him. Jim explains that if people call him that, it's only because they're cheap, petty, and jealous. She tells Jim he's lucky to have a life he enjoys.
My father controls my life.
But Jim disagrees as he's far from happy working as a night cleaner. Jim points out that she could simply leave since she's already 18, but when Josie asks why he can't leave his parents' house, the conversation quickly changes.
I don't want to.
Jim gets irritated, thinking she's only pointing out his flaws, and goes back to work. As Jim continues cleaning, Josie puts on some dance music and starts dancing along to it. When Jim begins vibing to the music too, Josie catches his goofy dance moves and immediately turns it off. At the same time, the car the thieves stole pulls up outside the mall. Sometime later, Josie uses the PA system to tell Jim to stop pretending and be honest about what he actually wants from life,
Have a family.
Build a life for himself.
adding that she's not impressed by a man who says he likes living in his parents' house. Jim responds through the intercom, insisting he's not lying to her earlier or trying to impress her. When they face each other again, the two of them finally have a real conversation. Jim admits he's been lying all along, and they begin opening up about their problems, with Jim pointing out that despite being rich, Josie is willing to steal just to escape her overbearing father.
And you're trying to get yourself arrested now. That makes me sad.
Josie tells him he's wasting the freedom he has, and Jim asks why she doesn't just talk to her father or leave. Josie replies that it's the same reason he can't leave his parents.
I don't want to be alone.
The two stare at each other in silence because deep down, they both know they're afraid of being alone. Josie suggests that they both leave town and start over in California. Jim is hesitant at first, but after she reveals what her father puts her through,
I'm just afraid to live with him.
he agrees. Josie then tells him she has $52,000 in her purse that they can use to escape and start a new life. They decide to run away in the morning, and as they spend time together dancing, they grow closer and eventually share a kiss. Josie's father arrives at the mall with the sheriff, searching for her. The sheriff asks Jim if he has seen Josie, but he lies and says he hasn't. Meanwhile, the two crooks, Nestor Pyle and Gil Kinney, break into the mall with plans to rob the place. When Josie's father and the sheriff leave, Jim and Josie continue having fun as the night goes on, turning the mall into their own private world. As Jim and Josie skate together, they suddenly come face to face with the two crooks pointing their guns at them. Shocked, they lose their balance and crash directly into them, knocking both crooks unconscious. Realizing what just happened, they quickly run to hide, but it doesn't take long before the crooks wake up and begin searching for them. Before long, the crooks catch Jim and Josie in the dressing area and force them onto the floor, demanding to know their identities. Staying calm, Jim spins a lie that they've stumbled into a $60 million drug deal and claims Josie as his hostage. He warns that armed partners are arriving any minute. And as the crooks begin to believe him, they panic and quickly surrender their guns, begging not to be shot.
That was great!
Nestor and Gil smiles and informs Jim that the gun he's holding isn't even loaded. Jim then offers a truce and hands the weapons back as a gesture of trust, but that's when the thieves happily reveal that the guns are actually very loaded.
I lied.
Meanwhile, Josie decides to handle things differently and begins charming one of the crooks, acting friendly and convincing enough that he eventually agrees to let her leave with them. Outside, while the two men are distracted loading stolen goods into their car, Josie quietly slips into the driver's seat and steps on the gas, leaving the two crooks in the parking lot. Back inside the mall, Jim grabs a shotgun hidden inside the head custodian's locker. Using the empty store to his advantage, he lures Nestor and Gil into the back area of the building and finally turns the tables on them. And before long, both thieves are tied up, trapped, and completely out of options. Morning finally arrives and a police officer walks into the store expecting a normal shift, only to discover two criminals neatly tied up and waiting for him inside the mall. The final scene shows the two of them relaxing beside a pool somewhere in Hollywood, leaving behind the small town and the lives they no longer wanted to live. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more, and do me a favor by leaving a like below.